Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to have everyone jump on here with us tonight. I'm excited because of what this information means to me. I am so passionate about this information. I was in a health crisis when this was introduced to me, and it has been absolutely life changing for my health and for my family's health. When I was introduced to this information, probably between 8 and 9 years ago, I was in a real health crisis. My mental health was in a really bad state at that time. Um, we had a surprise baby, which is like the best thing ever, but we also had teenagers. And so that was baby number four. Um, and because it was like in the 2008 time where people were losing their homes and things, we were among those people that lost our house while I was pregnant. So there was this whole process of having to move with the baby being a couple months old and having teenagers change schools. And so there was a lot of emotional things happening as well as job changes and things like that. So I found myself in a place where I was physically very depleted, but also emotionally things were really difficult at that time. Um, so because I didn't sleep well anyways, two things. I had a new baby, but I also had restless leg. I struggled with restless leg so bad for so many years. So having a struggle to sleep with, that was always a struggle for me because I started with restless leg as a teenager. I tried so many different things for that. My mom was super into all things herbs and supplements. We were raised Amish, and so we were kind of like the people, especially my mom in the community, that everyone was like, "What do you take for this and what do you take for that?" Because um, we grew herbs and we cooked with herbs, and it was just kind of always our go-to. So um, that was something that I started with, and I started trying that. And then I did everything that I knew how to do because emotionally I was just so tired. And then I started having issues with like anxiety. And um, now looking back and know that I actually had also started perimenopause at a very younger age than most probably. I had so many aches and pains, but I just could not regulate emotionally either. I was just so exhausted. I went to a naturopath once I did everything that I thought I knew how to do, and we tried a couple of different regimens with her. And so I eventually went to my family doctor, and he suggested that I go on antidepressants, and he gave me some prescriptions as well as for stuff for anxiety. I didn't really feel like I was depressed, but um, I thought I was desperate. I'm willing to try anything at this point, pretty much. So I went ahead and I got on the medications that he gave me, and I really wasn't finding any relief. All of the other aches and pains, all of the sleeplessness, all of that was still happening. Um, I don't know that I would say the emotions up and down and all over, but I also just didn't feel like myself. You know how hard that is when you're trying to help run a business and you have four kids and you're going through all these other things and you're just, yeah, it was a very desperate time for me. And I felt like I had just exhausted everything that I knew how to do. And then I'm looking to these medical professionals and in the naturopath and everyone who I thought should have every answer for me. Um, and I just thought, okay, well, what else is there? And that's when I connected with Angie, and I'll introduce her for those of you who don't know her. I've known Angie for probably 15 years, and she shared this with me. And my past would have been just to research everything, but I had no bandwidth. And that's the beautiful thing when you have a friendship with someone who shares with you that you trust. And I knew the integrity that she had, um, and I knew how much she cared about me. And so a couple of things were going on. I was like, well, I'm looking, thinking, I feel like I've already tried everything natural. I feel like I already know about everything natural. And then just the desperation and the frustration. But I was like, I'm gonna try this. Um, I would say probably by the end of week one, I noticed it's hard to explain if you've ever gone through this place where you're just not feeling like yourself and you just don't feel like you can have it together or just feel whole. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Um, I began to not have the brain fog, and the kids began to notice that I was like, kind of like mom was back, you know? Um, and that just continued to grow. So here I am now, like, I want to say like 8 years in, and in my 50s now, I feel better than I did in my 30s. Um, and I'm not on any prescriptions. So grateful for that. I have such good energy. I wake up feeling good. I actually sleep because I don't have restless leg. So that's the other beautiful part about this journey. No restless leg. And I didn't think that was possible. So I'm excited for you all to hear tonight. You're going to hear us talk about nutrigenomic activation. There will be a time for questions. And I'm sure that Angie and maybe Shanell will share some of their stories. Angie is my friend of 15 years. She has been educating on nutrigenomic activation for a decade now. She is a mother of four and a grandmother of two, and I got to hold one of them yesterday. So, Angie, thank you for sharing with everyone here tonight what you shared with me. Oh, wow, I don't know. It's been like 8, 9 years ago already, maybe, or close to that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barb. And, hearing everything that you've gone through, and I've known you longer than you've been activated. I've known you probably as much time prior to activation as since activation. And so it's one of the joys of getting to do this where you see the difference, the before and after, but you're experiencing it day in and day out through connection with people. And we were just chatting yesterday about all the different aspects of her health journey. And it brings you to tears to think what life was like. And sometimes you don't realize how great feeling your best can be when you are feeling the way that you think is just what everybody feels like. You just kind of accept. And I remember when I learned about this, I was in my early 40s and I thought, that's just what it feels like to be alive. That's just what it feels like to be in my early 40s. And I truly accepted and thought nothing was wrong with me, which is laughable right now, that I'm on the other side of it so many years later. And I realized how naive that was to think that some of the things that are really ailments and are really deep, deep dysfunctions that are kind of injustices in our living process and our aging process and so on. And so anyway, it's my absolute joy to have you all here. I hope you're inspired by Barb's story. You're going to hear more tonight. I'm going to actually team teach tonight with two of my colleagues, Hannah Brower and Shanell Hughes, unless Hannah's kids need her. She's a mother of littles, but she's also an RN who is a nutrigenomics educator full time. But she works this around her children, and this is bedtime. So if she ducks out, you won't hear from her. But if she stays here, you will hear from her. And my dear friend, Shanell Hughes, who's actually the one who shared it with me. So you're kind of seeing a pattern here. I shared it with Barb. Shanell shared it with me. And Hannah is also Chanel's daughter. And the reason Shanell shared it with me over 9 years ago is because we were going through a health crisis with one of our youngest sons. And I say that because my two youngest sons are identical twins. And so one of them had spent 10 months completely non-functional in an unexplained way. And I'm a doer and I'm a fixer, and I extended every ounce of bandwidth that I had within me to try to help him. And at the time, I was very entrenched in Western medicine. So even trial meds and so many diagnostics, so many different specialists, and nobody could help him. And then I'm a studier. And so I looked into every possible natural and holistic modality, and nothing was budging my son. And I had this identical mirror picture of a vibrant fifth grader. And then I had my son Gabe, who missed all of fifth grade. And at the time, I was executive director of a nonprofit here in our hometown of Kalamazoo, Michigan. And my family was opening a franchise restaurant, and I was kind of leading that charge. So I was extremely overextended. I had a non functional, quite ill, but inexplicably so, 10-year-old. and with four other kids biologically. And we were bringing into our home our fifth child, who was 15 years old at the time and had been through just cyclical, heinous trauma. So that's a lot, that's a lot. If I had none of the other stuff going and we were just bringing Deshaun into our home, that would have been quite an undertaking. That probably would have depleted me a lot. If we were just opening a franchise restaurant, same. If I was just running the nonprofit, same. And if I would just had one of my four biological children that was non-functional, same. And I only say that not for credit, but really for you to understand how weary I was. Like I was spent, and it had been 10 months of not being able to help my child. And everyone had an answer. Everyone had a natural modality that was going to help him. And you know what? I had tried it all. So I would, like, that was my face when people would suggest something. I just thought, you know what? I've tried it all. We tried elimination diets and supplements. And like I said, all the other things. And nothing helped him. And I was so frustrated. And he was desperate as well. I had this 10-year-old pleading with me to feel better. And because we had been able to fix most things in the past. And fortunately, my dear friend Shanell, who you're going to hear from, and we had been friends for years. And so there was this deep trust that had been built. She kind of kept at me that she had something that could help Gabe. And I wrote it off a little bit. So if you're here today because it was someone's fourth invitation and you're just skeptical and weary and you're just here to please them, I feel you. That's where I was because I just wanted to honor Shanell more than I believed there was something that could help Gabe, honestly. But the last time Shanell reached out to me, which again was probably the third or fourth time, she said a couple things that got my attention. And Shanell runs an adult foster care home, a senior living center, nursing home that has been very much end of life care. Usually the people's stay was months, not years. And I was aware of the level of care she offered. It was very intimate. She only took 6 residents at a time. It's in a beautiful home out in the country, and she loves deeply. So these people are not in an institution. They're in this beautiful care facility. And I had been in some of the trenches with her, not all of the trenches, but some of the trenches with her as she had experienced what that had to offer and the pains that came with it. And she said, Angie, I researched this natural product. And when she said natural product, I just wanted to like inwardly roll my eyes. And I thought, please, I've tried all the natural products. And she said, I researched this natural product for 8 months. So that kind of got my attention because there's not 8 months of research available on most pharmaceuticals, let alone a natural product. So I thought, huh? And she said, the overseeing physician who had had a focus on wellness and was willing to look at things through a different paradigm, but he recommended that she put every single resin on it. And that's why she kind of launched into that research. And that got my attention because I was very much a practitioner follower back then. I never questioned things. Sometimes trauma and things makes you start to question, but at that time I hadn't questioned a lot of medical advice. So I thought, wow, a doctor recommended this. And she researched it 8 months, and I knew her to be a deeper researcher than me. And I'm a deep researcher, but I was too weary and too exhausted at the time to even entertain the thought. And then she says to me, I have tried it with every resident, Angie, and I see wonderful things. I see people coming out of dementia. I see people going off meds left and right. And I've had people come off hospice. And I lost my dad 20 years ago. And at the time, it would have been about 10 years prior to a neurological degenerative disease that had no hope, no treatment, no cure, just very cruel deterioration with a very long and cruel death and a very long hospice experience and a very rare illness called progressive supranuclear palsy. And I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that she's had people come out of dementia and come out of hospice. That had just been my experience with my dad that really scarred me.
Carol,
And
Carol, do y'all take checks?
oh, hold on one second. I'm just going to make sure everybody's muted, so we don't have any interruptions. And so then she says to me, and I was a business person. I mean, I was running a nonprofit and opening a restaurant. And so when she said to me, from what I've seen, Angie, and how well people get, it's more cost effective as a business owner to pay for every single resident to be on these products. So I provide it as long as the families give their permission. And she said, so I'm going to talk to the families this week. If you want to come and listen, come and listen. And so I went and listened to the information because that got my attention. I thought, what in the world? She's paying for this for people? And, you know, I was all about the bottom line and the P&L and all the things. And I listened to the information. It sounded too good to be true. So I want you to know everything we say tonight is going to sound too good to be true. And the reason I tell you that, and I don't hide that from you, is because, you know, honestly, your bodies are made that good. Your bodies are made in a too good to be true way. And you're going to learn tonight how we just signal the body to do what it was created to do. We don't have some magic too good to be true pill or formula or snake oil. It's just that, yeah, your body is that special. And I want you to leave on your lens of, or your hat of skepticism, because we live in a day and age where you really should be skeptical of the things presented to you. And if what we say tonight doesn't hold up to your skepticism, then we didn't do our job. But we should be skeptical about anything we put in our body. And I was. And so I listened to this information. It was very validated. The fact that I trusted Shanell so much, the fact that I knew how much she cared about her residents and her patients, and she was utilizing it with every one of them. And I was seeing firsthand, I sat in the living room of her senior living center as I listened to the information. And her senior living center is something to behold. You guys, if you're ever in the Southwest Michigan area, you need to go there. You're going to hear her talk tonight and your jaw will drop. It's amazing the things that she sees when she integrates nutrigenomics into her care. And so I said, you know what the heck? I mean, we've tried everything else. I've tried a lot of things that have hurt my son. So why wouldn't I try this when I have a physician over here saying it's as healthy as blueberries? That's what he was saying. He's like, it's as natural as blueberries. You've got nothing to lose. And I thought, really, for the price, it was so cheap. Let's just try it. And I bought some for my son, Gabe, the 10-year-old who had missed all of fifth grade. And I bought some for our son, Deshaun, who the 15-year-old who was joining our family. We didn't have medical rights to him yet. So I couldn't even get him meds if I wanted to. And it was considered nutrition. So I thought, what the heck, let's try, because he had so much PTSD, depression, anxiety, no sleep patterns, aches and pains throughout his body due to neglect. And so I thought, let's try it for him. And you know what? I'm the mom. I'll try it for myself. And there's a reason I'm telling you all of these things, because the three of us had very different things going on. My son, Deshaun, had emotional and mental things happening, and also physical because of the neglect and lack of medical care and in his physicality. I had extreme gut things and hormonal things as someone who is approaching perimenopause, but extreme gut my whole life. But I thought nothing was wrong with me. You know, I just thought that's what it was like to be alive as Angie. And then what we didn't know at the time for my 10-year-old was that an autoimmune process was trying to manifest, and sometimes they just take a long time. And so I tried these products, and my 10-year-old instantly came back to me. I know it sounds too good to be true. I know it sounds kooky. I'll explain the science behind why, but I got my son back the next day. And he went to the last 3 days of fifth grade. And he and I and our whole family can never unsee that. The doctors can't ever unsee that. It just stopped the autoimmune process. And there's a long story regarding Gabe. So I'm very willing to share. But for time's sake, I won't get into the depths of it right now. But I know that sounds almost snake oil-ish when you look at something that can help mental and emotional, gut, and autoimmune. They seem very unrelated to most people, but the reality is they're very, very connected. And that's where the science of nutrigenomics comes in. So I'm going to give you just a high-level introduction to nutrigenomics, and then I'll hand it over to my colleagues who can give you even more information. But I want to draw your mind into a new way of thinking, because the supplement industry and the pharmaceutical industry, which I'm not here to vilify or to talk down about. It's just what they do is they treat and manage disease and symptoms. And so they're very focused on, you know, if you have Alzheimer's, there's treatment A, B, and C. If you have acne, there's treatment, you know, D, E, and F. And if you have autoimmune, depending on what it is, there may be a whole different set of treatment. And we have a lot of different modalities based on diagnosis. And 60 years ago, so this isn't something new, 60 years ago, a team of scientists who really understood that that was a little backwards, and really with the mindset and understanding that if you look at the cells, there's studies upon studies upon studies upon studies. And even in the scientific world, and people who will go that deep in understanding that no matter what is going on in your body, if it's unwellness or even the vulnerabilities of aging, it's rooted in the same common cellular dysfunctions. So I want you to picture for a moment, I want you to picture a four-legged table. And I'm sitting at a four-legged table right now with my computer. And I want you to think of all the diagnoses that could be represented with this group that we have on here. We have 18 people on here. How many diagnoses, and you don't have to say it out loud, but just think, in our world today, how many diagnoses are represented by these 18 people? Probably more than 18. Probably more than 25. It's probably more upwards over 30, because many people have many. And I want you to think of all of those diagnoses just for a moment. We're not going to focus a lot on diagnoses, but think of those diagnoses for a minute, and then think of all the diagnoses that all of these people on this Zoom don't want. Because whether we have them or not, there are certain biggies that we don't want. And then think of all the little things that we just live with. Things like IBS and acne and anxiety, things that we just kind of accepted as part of life. Hot flashes, hormonal imbalances, bloating, headaches, just kind of how we define being alive. Think of the small ones, think of the big ones, the scary ones, the Alzheimer's, the cancer, the MS, the ALS. And now I want you to imagine that every diagnosis we can think of, hundreds of them, are represented by the tabletop. And probably if this is your first introduction to nutrigenomics, probably you have been acclimated to a life of managing the tabletop, keeping it clean, keeping it shiny, whether we have to varnish it, paint it, cut out a blemish, graft a new piece in, we keep that tabletop in the best working condition and we manage it. But this team of scientists 60 years ago recognized that instead of managing the tabletop, that they would love to explore cutting a leg out from underneath the table. Because if this tabletop has properties, it has certain properties being held up by the legs, right? Being supported. But what if it wasn't supported anymore? Could it even be a tabletop? And I'm here to tell you, at the table I'm at, if I knocked a leg out from under this table right now, my computer would fall. It would not support anything that's on top. And then imagine we could knock out 2 legs or 3 legs or 4 legs. That's what we do, because the cellular dysfunctions that are holding up whatever, it's a different way of thinking. I know it's super challenging because we've been trained to be so focused on disease that it's hard for us to get out of that realm. I have 2 sons who are type 1 diabetic, and man, type 1 diabetes is about shining that tabletop. Man, we are managing that disease and that manages our life. But what if in our toolbox of managing that disease, we know that we're knocking legs out from underneath it so that the properties of the tabletop, and in our case, type 1 diabetes, just really can't maintain the same strength? Well, that's what LifeVantage does. And we're here tonight because we represent a biotech company called LifeVantage. They have pioneered this science called nutrigenomics. And now we are light years ahead of others trying to kind of catch up with us. We specialize in it. And I want you to know that whatever we do, because I'm going to explain what nutrigenomics is here in a moment, what we do targets the legs. We want to knock the legs out from underneath your disease and aging process. whatever it is. Because here's the deal, you guys, whatever you're struggling with, it's made up of cells, and we get the cells well. So like when Barb was talking about everything from, struggling with her mental health to restless legs and all the different things when she introduced and led us into this call, those are all rooted in the same dysfunctions. And probably when she sees a practitioner, they have different modalities, different prescriptions. Sometimes it's a different surgery to kind of manage it and try to get you well, but ultimately they're all rooted in the same things. So this team of scientists wanted to address those things, and how could they go about it? Because externally, nothing can touch those things. We can do things that are good for it, but in the grand scheme of it, they're not powerful enough to change the trajectory of our aging process or of our disease process. And so what they did was really groundbreaking, which is kind of why we're here. And I want to take a second just to tell you, I'm so grateful you're here, because I remember one of the thoughts that I had when I was listening to this information for the first time. I was a little angry that the world doesn't know about this. And so whenever we hold these Zooms or we do in-person classes, our heart really is that you just need to know this is an option. What you do with this information is entirely up to you. But know that this is something that takes a different approach. And how we take a different approach is through nutrigenomics. Nutrigenomics is just that. It's a combination of those two words, nutra, which is really significant of nutrition. We use nutritional formulations, nutritional components that would look similar to supplements, but instead of supplementing where there's lack, we focus on your genome, genomics. That's where the part of the word genomics comes in, nutrigenomics. And we use nutrition to affect your DNA. And why that's a really big deal is because, well, first of all, we all blame our DNA for a lot of things, but only 20% of your DNA is moving and grooving. Only 20% of your DNA is active. And 80% of your very special, extremely intricately and powerfully programmed DNA is dormant. It's sleeping. It's lazy. And the only way, one day it kind of hit me, a way to kind of get people to grasp that, because again, we blame our DNA for everything, is to think of programming like a computer. And so some of you are even watching us on your cell phone tonight, but this cell phone, my iPhone, they say has more intricate programming. Whoops. Oh dear. Has more intricate programming than like a NASA computer from like 30 years ago. It's like hardcore. And there's a lot that this can do that it's not doing right now. So you can see it's doing a little things. Like, I have 4 cute little pictures of my grandson. I love that. I love that I can look at it anytime and see my grandson. I can see the time. I can see the date. I can see my cellular provider, how much battery I have, if I have Wi-Fi. It's doing a few things. It's probably not doing 20% of its things. So I can't totally connect it to what your DNA is right now. But like your DNA, there's a lot of programming in this that I'm not accessing right now. There's so much that this can do. Would any of you be shocked if you found out right now something that your iPhone can do that you didn't know about? Like, I don't think any of us would be shocked, right? We know it's got like intricate, really cool capacities. And I want you to think of your DNA like that, because your DNA has incredible programming to do incredible things, powerful things to heal and repair your body that just aren't turned on. So like right now, my flashlight isn't turned on. If I thought about my flashlight, like I think about my DNA, like the rest of the world, if I'm a voice, I don't think this way anymore, but maybe 10 years ago, I would have thought, you know, I'm destined to probably die young. I'm destined to lose my hair. I'm destined to have heart disease. There's a lot of things that I thought my DNA would dictate. So if my flashlight didn't work, I'd probably just say, my mom's flashlight didn't work. Her siblings' flashlights don't work. It's just not in the cards. Maybe your flashlight doesn't work or works, but mine doesn't. And then if someone showed me how to signal it, which basically just means activate it or turn it on, I just have to know where the switch is. And if I can turn it on, then all of a sudden it steps into what it was programmed to do. And it does it really well. It does it powerfully. And that's what we do through Nutrigenomics. So when we talk about getting activated, that's what we mean. We mean that we have nutritional formulations that signal parts of your DNA that are so specially formulated to turn on your DNA pathways so powerfully that they address those dysfunctions in the cells that kind of start knocking the legs out from under the table. So I use those two analogies. I know you got to kind of follow like the table analogy and the phone analogy, but it kind of helps draw us into why I could see the results in my son with autoimmune, in myself with gut issues, and then also with my other son, my 15-year-old, who had mental and emotional issues and chronic pain. So if all of those things can be touched and we saw a reversal of using the same product, it's because it's addressing those cellular dysfunctions that are underlying to all things, those common cellular dysfunctions. So the first dysfunction that this team of scientists was looking at when they were researching, again, after 40 years of research, they found a breakthrough at the University of Colorado in Denver. They discovered a synergy of herbs. And when they synergized these herbs, common herbs, a lot of you take them without the synergy, without that patented formula that signal the DNA when they're formulated this way to turn on a pathway called NRF2. And when it's turned on, it signals your body to start manufacturing super antioxidants. And why that's a really, really big deal is because at the rate that it manufactures antioxidants, it lowers this culprit, this bad guy called oxidative stress, by at least 40% in 30 days. Nothing's ever done that. They did a study on humans at the University of Colorado in Denver. They had 100% efficacy. That doesn't happen. So that's why I want you to be skeptical. If you're on a med, it doesn't have 100% efficacy. It's very unheard of to have a study where there's 100% human efficacy. And not only that, was the efficacy was doing something that had never been done. So it got the world's attention, and Wall Street Journal published an article on it. ABC Primetime 20 years ago came in and did an investigative report. And then in response to that, that's when we became a company, because 9 million people wanted to purchase this product, and they were just lab coats in a lab wanting to help people heal their bodies. But that also got the attention of different world-renowned organizations like the NIA and the NIH and Washington State University and Mayo Clinic and LSU, who all wanted to spend their own millions to study this product because, again, it was just so groundbreaking. And so I'm going to show you just a 1:48 clip of that ABC Primetime just to kind of give you a glimpse of how profound this is, because my friends, oxidative stress is one of those legs to the table. No matter what you're struggling with, it's rooted in that cellular dysfunction called oxidative stress. Even if what you're struggling with is very elusive, like just inflammation, excess inflammation. Well, you know what inflammation is rooted in? Oxidative stress. So what if we could knock a leg out from under that table? So I want to show you, and the really cool thing is when ABC Primetime, if you're not old like me, you might not know this, but when these news magazines would go into any organization, their whole motive was to bust them. And so it was really interesting to see this. Watch this 1:48 segment of the ABC Primetime.
The oxidative stress measured by those T-bars increases with age. But in Dr. McCord's tests, taking just one pill of Protandim a day reversed that trend for everyone at every age, even for an 80-year-old.
They all are reduced to the level of oxidative stress that one would expect, frankly, in a newborn or a very young child.
Back to the oxidative stress levels of a child? It sounds too good to be true. Will Protandim work on me? But what about my progress? After nearly 2 weeks now, it's time to get my results. Dr. McCord calculates the numbers. The result, my level of oxidative stress has declined dramatically.
45%, that's excellent.
Just look at where I fall on the graph, before and after.
Which, if extrapolated back, is the level you would see in a newborn baby.
Have we turned back the clock? Well, maybe not on the outside, but deep inside within my cells. Yes, indeed.
Would you suggest I keep taking this supplement?
I would.
And so, ancient Eastern healing and modern Western medicine may soon be working together. High oxidative stress is associated with more than aging. It's been linked to hundreds of illnesses.
It's at the very center of many diseases: liver disease, diabetes, emphysema, asthma. I've studied all of these: strokes, heart attacks,
Even mental disease.
yes,
Depression?
Alzheimer's disease, depression. But we do know that oxidative stress is part of those disease processes. I don't want to wait until I'm 80 years old and find out that I should have taken it.
So while that gives you a glimpse into what it is, and some of the language I know sounds probably more dramatic than you're used to, but these are the kind of things that we see. And, you know, like when first of all, I have an 80-year-old mother and I have a 7-month-old grandson. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this to share. There we go. I have a 7-month-old grandson. We're all activated. So really what they're saying is that if you tested my mother's blood at 80, my blood at 53, and my 7-month-old grandson, you wouldn't be able to determine the difference. You wouldn't know who the 80-year-old is. You wouldn't know who the 7-month-old is based on stress oxidation. Stress oxidation is underlying to anything that can ail you. And so that advantage is extreme. And that's really kind of what launched us into this journey of nutrigenomics. What we do is we take something, which again, we're not saying that's the miracle pill. You have the miracle body. We've been able to formulate through nutritional components that are very clean, the cleanest of clean supplements to signal your body to make what you need to regulate or diminish completely those dysfunctions within the cell that are underlying to disease and unwellness. And so what I want to do right now first is remind you that, again, we're not going to be claiming to heal, treat, or cure any disease, because what we do is we get the cell well. And you can see from these testimonies here, we just have a few different pictures up, and whether it's skin, whether it's weight loss, whether it's chronic pain, whether it's focus, I'm telling you, from ADHD to lupus and kind of everything in between, it's all rooted in the same dysfunctions. So you could be taking the same thing as someone else, and someone else has a response with their migraines, and the other, and you may experience a response with your chronic pain. And this is where Shanell started seeing all kinds of different things at Gull Arbor at her senior living center. And that's why with my 2 sons and myself, and then my family's had a lot of medical trauma. So I have 5 sons and a mother who's aging, and it works on pets too. So dogs who have been through things. And from all different ailments, we may all be using the same product, but experiencing vastly different results because there were different manifestations in our body of that oxidative stress, of that dis-ease. And so with that, I'm going to introduce Shanell because I would love to have her share a little bit. This is a list of the different organizations that have studied that our first proprietary blend, that Protandim NRF2, that signals your NRF2 pathway, wakes it up and addresses oxidative stress. And like I said, Shanell spent 8 months researching this. So Shanell is my dear friend. She's a mother of 7, grandmother of 4, 5 now. Yes. Okay. I knew that one was coming and I didn't know if that was factored in. Grandmother of 5, teacher. She homeschools her kids. She teaches at a homeschool co-op, but she's also the owner of Gull Arbor Senior Living in Richland, Michigan. And you will never find a person who has more confidence in nutrigenomics because of the things that she sees on a regular basis just by applying this science with people who most people would think it's too late. I can't tell you how often I talk to clients and they're like, but yeah, it's too late for their dog who's going to be euthanized, for their parent who's in hospice. Well, you've got to hear from Shanell. So Shanell, will you talk to us a little bit about the studies and your experience at Gull Arbor? You have to unmute though. Thank you.
Got it. Okay. So I have lived in an AFC since I was a child, and I've seen how people age and I wanted nothing to do with it. I was just ready to be 18. And once I was 18, it wasn't for me. It was a family business. I'm third generation even. Like my aunts worked in this. My grandma started the AFC. So um, it's just part of our family. But I was going to run away from it because just seeing the dying process, seeing the aging process, seeing the um quality of life at that time. It wasn't golden years. And that's not at all what I was seeing. And it was scary and traumatizing as a young person watching what happens as you age. And so fast forward to about 10 years ago, I did end up taking over Gull Arbor Senior Living. My mom stepped back and retired. And I was just going to do something different. I wanted to find something that would help. My mom is passionate too about those kind of things. Like she just really cares for people well. And we were just seeing people needing AFCs younger. Quality of life was horrible. Like how it looked in my AFC at the time was people in hospital beds, people in wheelchairs. In order to run it well, needing 2 people for 6 people. 6 people, still needing 2 caregivers because to get everybody up for breakfast and the transfers and just the care was full care. Hoyers and sit-to-stands, all of these things was what I was experiencing in the AFC. And most people that came lived anywhere from a year to 18 months. 2 years was a really long, long time. So that was basically life expectancy once they came to us, and on all different kinds of meds. It was not uncommon to see people come with 17, 20 meds. That was just normal. And so I just really wanted to change things. I had a doctor come in and he had a little bit more of a holistic approach, which I was really excited about. But at the same time, I had researched so many supplements and I had researched so many acupuncture and different herbs and all of these things. And I'm thinking, nothing really changed the trajectory of how people were. Once in a while, I'd see somebody sleeping a little bit better, maybe, or just, feeling a little bit better that day, but nothing, then it was right back to the next day. So it was nothing that was like, I can say, wow, this really works. And Dr. Hyde came. He had just got back from a trip to Hawaii visiting a colleague of his that was a doctor, a PT. And he's like, he is seeing incredible things. Like, you've got to see this. Like, he is getting people from rehab so much quicker. The body is repairing. Like, he showed me the primetime investigation. He showed me all of these peer-reviewed studies. And like, it increases life span and it does all of these things. I'm thinking, how in the world have I not heard about this before? That can't be. And even though I was optimistic that I would find something one day, it was still like when it finally was put in front of me, I was skeptical. Like, you have to be. It's just like, how could I not have heard this? How could I have gone through, college and not heard any of this stuff in any of my, medical classes? So I started researching it. And what I was very pleasantly surprised to understand is that there was a lot of research to do. Like, normally when a doctor would come and put somebody on a med, I, researched the side effects and a little bit of the studies, got my staff on board to look for these side effects and this is what it should do. And there was a few studies that I could look at on, how many trials there were and things like that. Nothing big. But with this, he came and he brought me 31 peer-reviewed self-funded studies. So that really got my attention. I'm like, that's how it should be for all things. All things should be through this scrutiny. So I started just going through it. And I found out that the American Heart Association, this was the first proprietary blend it had ever studied and ever has since. Like, it hasn't studied any other proprietary blend. And the research on it was crazy. And I had a heart issue at the time. I needed heart surgery. It was just a matter of time of when it would happen. I delivered my children on the heart floor of the hospital, the first 6 anyways. And so when I saw this, I thought, wow, like, if this is true, maybe it could help me. So I immediately started it on myself. I was still looking through everything for, to get to the residents and be able to talk to families. But I was really thankful because in 4 months' time, I had no more heart palpitations and I had my first normal EKG. So that spoke to me like, okay, I am on to something here. And I continued studying it. The National Institute on Aging also, first and only natural proprietary blend it studied and has proven to increase lifespan. So that really perked my ears on that one. And I'm thinking, okay, I can increase lifespan, but I don't want to increase lifespan if quality of life isn't improved. So then I continued on and saw the Washington State University study, and it came out with that this could possibly be the best therapeutic and preventative course of medicine in the history of medicine. And I was thinking, what? That really blew my mind. Like, how far can I think about this? These advancements, like, what is this? How could I not know about this before? So I went through all of these studies. After about 4 or 5 of them and getting into that, and 8 months of studying the rest of them, that was really dialed into. I'm like, I am starting this. I'm starting this on my residents. And I talked to the families, got their approval, and I bought it for every single one of them and thought, I'm going to just see what happens here. And as time moved on, I started seeing exactly what they talk about. Like, even in 80 and 90-year-old people, I was seeing people come off blood pressure meds, off anxiety meds. I was seeing people feel better, sleep better. I can give you a few stories that just really stand out. I had a guy named Don, and he came to me because we had his wife, and his wife wasn't doing very well. He had fallen and broken his hip also, and we wanted them to be together. And he was a lot of care, but I decided to take him and so that he could be with his wife the final, stages. So he came to us and he couldn't walk. He had a few months to live, but she also had a few months to live, so I wanted them to be together. He was in a lot of pain, so he had suicidal thoughts. He just wanted to be done. He had a lot of sores everywhere. And we started him on this, and we started getting him sleeping better, and we started getting his body healing, like the sores healing, those kind of things, to the point that he was taken off from hospice. When he was taken off from hospice, we also put him on PT, thinking, okay, he's off hospice, let's start getting him stronger. So we worked with him with PT. We continued on, and he improved to the point that he was walking. He was helping care for his wife, which was a huge blessing because that's something he had done and wanted to continue to do. And she had not passed yet either. So that was pretty incredible. She was still going. So she came to us in January. She was supposed to live maybe a month, February. He came to us in February and had maybe a couple months to live. She ended up passing in December. So she lived a full other year. And he also just started improving, just doing so well. Walking, no walker, doing great. Fast forward to, he got his driver's license back. So that was pretty fun. And even now we're talking 5.5 years later, he's still going and he's driving. He just got back from Illinois a week and a half ago from seeing his brother. Traveled to see his brother. And we also have a garden. He is teaching some of the children that come to Gull Arbor from the staff how to garden and stuff. So his quality of life has improved so much. We had a lady that fell also and broke her hip and fractured her hip, and she came to us back from the hospital from us, and the PT immediately said there's no way she'll ever walk again. She's going to not die of pneumonia in bed. She really shouldn't be here. She should be in a skilled nursing home. Her husband had lived with us at the time too. And I had seen enough of what was happening. So I was like, no, you're wrong. She is going to walk again. And he's like, there's no way. And I said, I promise you by the end of the month, I'll have her walking again. And he was like, if you do, I will come back and see that. So we started her on the NRF2. We also started her on the activated collagen. And in 5 days' time, she was standing and doing a pivot. In a week's time, she was taking steps. In 2 weeks' time, she was also doing stairs and walking. By the end of the month, she shared a dance with her husband, and they continued walking down the driveway like they normally did before she had fallen. And so it was incredible. Like, it was incredible. We actually had a cake for him when he came back, basically saying you were wrong and have a piece of cake with us, but let's show you what she can do. So we've had that. We've had, I know Angie talked about her dad passing of supranuclear palsy. We also had a resident with that, and she was doing those board falls and dementia component when she came, somewhat combative and confused. And we got her to the point that she was just kind of not declining anymore. After a few months, she just wasn't declining. She was actually at a standstill, which is very, very abnormal for supranuclear palsy. It's a continual disease and it gets really bad. So she wasn't, and then all of a sudden she started improving where she was reaching for a book to read and she wanted to walk by herself again. She wasn't falling. We weren't ever catching her needing gait belts or things like that. She was getting stronger and she's like, I really want to walk by myself. She went to the neurologist. She was alive still a year later. Went to the neurologist and the neurologist said, I can't really give you permission to walk again. You have this disease. There's no cure to it. There's no remission to it. You really need to be supervised. It's really good that you're doing this great though. Most people are not doing this great. So she came back to us disappointed, but a full other year happened. And at this point, she's carrying her walker to the bathroom and she's racing to the bathroom so that we don't help her get there before us. Like she is just determined to be able to care for herself again or be able to do some things herself. And she went back another year later and he was just like, I can't explain this. There's no remission. There's no cure. I can just say there's no markers here. You don't have markers for this. You can go ahead if you want to take the risk and walk by yourself again, you can. She lived another 3 years. So she lived 5 years in total past that. And even the morning she died, she was still alert, talking to her daughter. She told us she didn't feel like eating. She wanted to sleep more and she just went to sleep. And that's the other thing we're seeing. So many people talk about living, but we all need to talk about dying too. And I had spent years seeing the dying process, which is why I never wanted to do this kind of work again. It was just brutal. And I'm seeing the dying process totally different. Instead of filling up with inflammation and turning and needing large amounts of morphine and chain stoking and secretion drops to dry up the secretions, those kind of things, we don't see that anymore. We see people needing very little morphine and staying alert almost to the end or all the way through the end, talking still with their family, just coherent. Sometimes they're just reading a book and they pass. Other times they literally just start sleeping more, eating less, and become weak that way. They don't want to get out of bed anymore. They just are tired a little bit more and then they just pass peacefully. But the vitals are all still good. Like hospice would be like, they're not in transition. No, no, no. We don't have to start the vigil of sitting beside them, yet. And all of them pass before that vigil starts because their vitals are good. So there's no clue, which we know now there's clues by how much more they sleep and just reducing how much they eat. Your body is made to fight, to keep going. And so it will shut off the digestive process and it will eat less and it will sleep more for repair. And that's kind of what we see, but we don't see the filling up of inflammation and things like that. We've seen somebody came to us with cancer. She came with her husband and wanted to because she had cancer, she thought she was going to die before him and he had dementia. So she wanted to get in and get him acclimated before she died. She had about 3 months to live and she couldn't do chemo. Her blood work was too bad. And we started her on this. Her blood work improved to the point that she's like, I can do chemo. They approved her to chemo. So she started and she actually finished all of the chemo. She stayed on this during the chemo. And they told her, you know what, you're in remission. That's great, but this is an aggressive type of cancer and it will come back somewhere else in your body. As breast cancer, this was bladder cancer that she had. So, it could be brain cancer, breast cancer. They sent back every year just to be tested again and do a scan. And she lived another 4 years. Each year she went and did the scans and she never had cancer back. She actually outlived her husband. Her husband died 5 months before she did, and she pretty much died of a broken heart. Not so much, she didn't die of cancer or anything like that. They were sweethearts and it broke her heart when he passed. But she was also so thankful that she lived to see him pass and he didn't have to spend a day without her, which was a really good thing. But it was incredible. And these are the things that we just see through it. It's just even in 80 and 90 years old, there's no doubt that we're reducing stress oxidation. Dying processes don't lie. 80 and 90-year-olds, don't lie. They're just improving so much in their arthritis, like I said, blood pressure, anxiety, all of these things, they're doing phenomenal with. So it is more cost effective for me to put everybody on it. My staff has noticed a huge difference. I have had staff that work at other places and then ours, and they're like, I can't believe the difference here. Like your people, I have several people 5 or 6 years. I don't have a waiting list anymore, just because I don't know when when I'll have an opening again. It's just we've defied the odds and we've changed the quality of life for each person there.
It's so incredible, Shanell. And I know with my personal experience with my dad, it adds like a deeper sense of understanding. And I know sometimes like it's hard for people to grasp, but you guys, my dad died when he was 66 and he started progressing in his 50s. I will be 53 this week. And his body, the frontal lobe of his brain was attacked, which meant he lost all muscle control. And so at the very beginning, he lost his ability to speak because he lost control of his tongue. And then he lost all facial muscles. It's a very scary thing to see someone who can't utilize their facial muscles. You don't realize how many facial muscles you have in every expression that you make, which also meant that he couldn't open his eyes. So he lost all communication with us, even though there was a dementia component. And his quality of life just went down and down and down. And he would never have wanted to live that way for so many years. And then his dying process was very long and very violent and very, very medicated. And so to hear about Dolores, who was in her 90s, so 30 years, and really aging should give us a deeper vulnerability, right? Like her experience should have been worse than my dad's. But for Shanell to be able to apply nutrigenomics and see the progression stop, and then every symptom reverse, and even on her last day speak and walk, and literally have the power to decide, hey, I don't want to eat breakfast, I just want to go lay down, and she took a nap and then she died. It's mind-boggling to me, the power of that, when we were given no hope for someone that I loved who was 30 years younger than Dolores. And these are the things that are just growing to be very common in Gull Arbor. And so this offers a challenge to people of when we think there's no hope, which is what I thought. And I hate that feeling, by the way. I hate that feeling of thinking that you can't do anything. Sometimes when we feel like we can't do anything, it's because maybe modern medicine or the medical system doesn't have anything to offer. But when we can address what's underlying in the cells and we can get the cells well, like why not just see? I always tell people when they tell me, well, I'm struggling with this or I'm struggling with this, I always say, well, it's made up of cells. I wonder what would happen if we get the cells well. And Shanell is living proof in integrating that in the care of every resident. So anyway,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Oh, go ahead.
And one thing I just wanted to add too is that, when he first brought this to me and showed me like the 5 herbs that are in it, ashwagandha, bacopa, milk thistle, green tea extract, and turmeric, I was like, I've tried all of those things. I saw all the inflammation properties that they had. Each one of them had some of it. So I've tried all those things, and it didn't work. So that was part of my skepticism too. And he's like, no, this is what we struggle with, is that I was doing it in supplementation instead of activation, and activation is not known very well right now because we're the only activation company. We didn't know that our bodies can make so much, and when we make it instead of trying to supplement it, that's where the patents came in. Like when he told me there's 13 patents, I'm thinking patents on herbs, but I was thinking on herbs. I was thinking of the ingredients themselves, not on what they did. And so they're not individual herbs of what they do. It's the synergy of them together that changes their composition into taking it and what it causes our body then to do that makes the patents. That, like, you have to have something that nothing else can do in order to get a patent. So it's not like a herb can be patented, but we had to prove that your body could do something that it couldn't. And one of the things that I also studied was Dr. McCord put out a video also on tuning capabilities. And that's what we see with Protanum. It's a fine tuning of these cells. So things that are overproduced that is causing disease and injury and dysfunction are regulating down, and things that were not produced enough in our body that's causing disease, injury, and dysfunction are now coming up. So it's just like the fine tuning of piano. When you have genes that are dysregulated, either high or low, that's when disease and injury really happen. And so as I'm studying this more and seeing, oh, this tunes all of those things, it regulates things. We're talking hormones and all of these different pathways in our body can be regulated. And when you're doing that, that's what we're talking about of fixing the cells. And that's when beautiful things happen. And we're talking all the way into 90-year-old people. Like reducing stress oxidation 70% in 90 days is unheard of. Like I said, all of those herbs have a little bit of activation to them, and they studied those herbs because they have the activation, but it's the synergy of them together. We're talking about not just the synergy, but they're harvested at the right time, they're put together in the right amount. All of those things play into it of Protandim NRF2, and it's Dr. McCord's baby. Like he said he should have never found this in a lifetime, but some of the best Nobel scientists were on this. Like all of them had a Nobel Prize. He had the Elliott Crescent Award given to him for that. Even our stress oxidation is measured in McCord units after him. And so when he discovered this, it was absolutely huge. The Wall Street Journal, all of these, when Primetime Investigation Report came in to do a study and clearly try to debunk it, it was not. And so it blows my mind what it is or what it does more than what it is. That's what we have to get our minds around, is what it does, instead of like looking at this. Your doctor's going to look at it and they're going to say, this is 5 herbs. It's great. It's probably a liver detox, or, oh, it probably, reduces inflammation some or something like that. But what they don't understand is what they're used to is supplements, and supplements they give you a lot, hoping you'll absorb some. And sometimes that does damage to your body. There's actually a synthetic NRF2 that pharmaceutical has made, and it actually is dangerous. It can cause fatty liver, and it does not do as well for cancer. It actually, in some cases, can hype up the cancer. Hormones, things like that. Like it can actually harm you. But when your body makes something, your cells are so intricate. They're so intelligent. They know what's happening in your body. And that's why Angie and I say, like, wait a minute, she had this response and she had this, and her son had this and this. And then I have all these different diagnoses in the nursing home too: Parkinson's, MS, like ALS and dementia, all of this, supranuclear palsy, all of these things. But we see this one thing help all of it. And it's because we're reducing we're getting to the root of it. We're reducing the stress oxidation and having our bodies create their own. And in doing that, the cells know what to do first. So if you have back pain and heart issues and blood pressure issue, when you take it, you might not have the back pain like your friend did right away. Your body is going to be like, we got to get this blood pressure under control. And that's what we see. We see different results with different people. If you're on it long enough, it all comes around. But your body is so intricate and intelligent that it will do what it needs to do first. It knows. You're turning on superpowers in your body to be able to do miraculous things in your body.
Yes, it's all really about your makeup, and we're signaling, like turning on that flashlight on a cell phone. We're signaling your body to do what it was created to do, which is just wonderful how you were created. I don't think Hannah's on anymore. Hannah, if you're on, unmute and interrupt me, but I didn't see unless you showed up.
She had to get off.
Okay. And I'll be quick now because I know we've gone a little bit long, but I never really apologize for that because your health is worth it. And I know my son's health was worth it. My family's health is worth it. My client's health is worth it, to learn why this is a little different. And I know sometimes when I would go to the doctor's office, I wish they would spend this much time with me. So if you need to hop off, hop off. But we're just going to quick give an overview of, like we've talked about NRF2, we've talked about those 5 herbs. That was the initial proprietary blend that really set the wheels in motion for this Nutrigenomics vision. But remember, I said like all the legs on the table. There's many dysfunctions within the cells that are common and underlying to all disease. So not just activating your NRF2 to lower oxidative stress, but we're able to activate and signal a pathway in your DNA, just like I signal my flashlight, called NRF1. And NRF1 tells your body to build and strengthen and multiply your mitochondria. And it does so by 70%. That's a really, really big deal because your mitochondria are responsible for your cellular energy, which means the energy that every organ draws from to function without you thinking about it. The energy it takes for you to heal, the energy it takes for you to enter into a deep sleep, and the energy it takes for even sustaining what the NRF2 pathway does. And so it's incredible to be able to add because so many people have all these symptoms like my son where the doctors don't know what to say and they'll say, you know what, I think it's mitochondrial dysfunction. Well, we can get your body to get your mitochondria functioning really, really strong and at maximum capacity. We can signal your NAD pathway, which turns on your body's ability to make these wonderful things called sirtuins, which ignite your body into this state called autophagy, which is the turning over, the regenerating, the recycling, the cleaning out of your cells. That's why people are cold plunging and fasting and, doing all these other things to try to ignite autophagy, where and literally people are trying to infuse and paying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to infuse NAD to try to ignite this process, whereas we have a cellular activator that just tells your body, hey, wake up, and you start producing sirtuins at an increased rate of 100% within the first 24 hours, which Harvard University calls literally the fountain of youth. So adding NAD is really incredible. Those three together make up our pro tandem line. And as you can imagine, they kind of open the gate for each other. They clear the way for each other. They're healing the cell. And so we have a patent actually on the result of the three together because they make each other stronger. They take the anti-inflammatory response from like 48% to 848%. We see radical increase when you just combine the three together. We 3 years ago released an activated collagen, and why that's a big deal is because collagen, believe it or not, is the most prominent protein in every cell of your body, your brain cells, your heart cells, your connective tissue. It's not so much skin, hair, and nails, but it helps those too. And you have 28 different kinds of collagen within your body that all have different functions, from liver to brain to joints, connective tissue. And being able to signal the pathways that tell your body to start making collagen so that every cell has an increase in collagen density of 100% within 8 weeks, and also signal the pathways that tell your body to protect your collagen from excessive loss. Now, why we have these two pictured together is because we did start to notice some pretty special things when these were combined together. And these two have a patent on their result and response and effects of the two of them combined because they kind of create a third product. When the two of them are combined, we see 3,000 survival genes that are responsible for all different kinds of unwellness and dysfunction just get tuned like a piano. We see the immune system reset, and we see the fibroblast cells that are holding stress, not oxidative stress, but fight or flight stress, the kind of stress you hold when you're going through relationship troubles or a death in the family or a struggling child or stress at work. Sometimes those situations alleviate themselves, but your cells hold them and they stay in a fight or flight mode, and we wonder why we don't feel good. And when you take these two together, they de-stress your fibroblast cells by 992%. So there's different aspects of this combination that make it really our most powerful combo. The fact that two of the genes, one of them being the IL-1B gene that it resets, which is responsible for diabetic processes, the MMP9 gene, which is responsible for autoimmune disorders, and also the gene that's responsible for the metastasizing of cancerous tumors. Instead of letting it be overregulated, we just bring it right back into place. And that's what happens with activation. It just kind of starts balancing your body, and your body starts working in harmony. So with that activated collagen, yes, we see wonderful results with skin. Like I actually feel like I've had a skin transplant, and I feel like my husband has had a skin transplant since adding the activated collagen. And we see the things like our pain and our joints, everything is better. But that's just a sign of what's going on the inside. I've actually had a client who's 80 years old who started taking NRF2 and our activated collagen, that combo, that synergy for chronic pain. And she had congestive heart failure of a 25% heart function. And within 6 months, her heart function doubled. So I want you to grasp the regenerativeness of every organ. We've seen a 70-year-old nonverbal autistic man gain speech from adding the collagen with his NRF2. And so what that duo offers is beyond what you could ever think or expect from like really a cheap collagen supplement substitute. So I don't recommend collagen supplements, but this is activation. This is something that actually doesn't compare to this. And so what you see on the outside, and we see crazy things. We really do. You can see from people's complexion to their legs to their crow's feet. We see all of that. We see hair growth. But that's what's happening to the heart and to the brain and to the joints and to the liver. We have an NRF2 activator that targets your neurotransmitters and your brain health. And we see wonderful things with focus and cognitive. Like I take it because my dad died from a neurological degenerative disease. And I think there's so many unhealthy drinks out there. You add this packet to water and you drink it. And I would just rather drink something that's building brain health. But when we see people that like this was an 8-year-old child that utilized our NRF2, our NRF1, and this Axio drink. And you can see after 2 weeks, not only the difference in the spelling words, but the teacher recognized like this child is no longer the difficult child in the class. You see kind of like a cleansing of those neurotransmitters. And you feel your body and your brain working for you. We have an activator that activates your body's ability to burn that visceral fat, that dangerous fat that surrounds the organs. That's your fatty liver fat, your heart disease fat. That's the fat in the blood that causes disease. So it's not as much cosmetic. Remember, we target the underlying things that affect all disease and unwellness. And so not having that buildup of the dangerous visceral fat is really, really important. And recently, last October, we added, so gosh, I guess it's almost been a year, we added our Mind Body, which is a GLP-1 nutrigenomic activation system. And why that is it's 2 products that have a vegan nutritional formula that signal the genetic pathways to activate your hormones in your gut-brain axis, one of them being GLP-1, but there's several others that need to behave. And most of ours aren't behaving because we've been exposed to processed foods, sedentary lifestyle, EMFs, alcohol, you name it. Like just even Roundup and the weed killers that people put out in the summer. These are all things, scents, perfumes, colognes that really add to some of the dysfunctions that we're talking about, the dysregulations within your genes. Well, it kind of shuts down those hormones. So being able to get your GLP-1 in check and getting it regulated, but also the other hormones in that gut-brain axis really help regulate your blood sugar. They help protect your heart, your brain, super neuroprotective and neuroregenerative, believe it or not, and helps improve the health of your gut, your liver, your kidneys, your pancreas. And we see people's metabolic health get in line. We see weight loss, but we see people do it because they're getting healthy with 100% retention in muscle. In fact, we see a lot of people build muscle. A lot of people are getting pharmaceutical injections of GLP-1, which is a bioidentical hormone, which causes a lot of damage, but also muscle loss, which is really, really dangerous. And so we can see a drop in that visceral dangerous fat by 27%. While keeping all of your muscle. And we see most people noticing a change in their cravings, a change in that food noise. Their body isn't constantly drawn to the cupboard or the refrigerator, and they're getting full faster. And so whether it's people who maybe don't even have a weight problem, but they just want to increase muscle. When I talk to people who want to increase muscle, I guide them towards this product. When I talk to people who want to lose weight, I guide them towards this product. And so we see great things either way. But again, just like our other activators, this is igniting a healing and regulating process within the body. So it's not always like, like our pills are not a narcotic and they're not a GLP-1 injection. It's not going to just like push you into a process and to hell with all of your other health. Like it is actually going to ignite a healing process. And we're all coming to this with different levels of dysregulation. We all have different mysteries going on in our body that even we don't know about, even if we're very in tune with our body, because you know what? We'd all be aware in this moment that we could be surprised by labs. So as much as we think we know what's going on in our body, we could be surprised. And so that healing process ignites, you start to see the regulation, and we start to see, wow, like my body can produce 200% more GLP-1 than I'm used to. Amazing. I can see my food cravings go down by almost 100%. And I've experienced that. Like literally what I'm drawn to eat is completely different. How much I eat. I know a couple people on this call, Ron and Diane, have told me they know they've saved more in groceries than the cost of the product because they just can't eat as much. Even if it wasn't about the cravings, it's just they get so much fuller faster. One thing that I can't help but share with you is just that when you combine that mind-body GLP-1 with our NRF2, it creates, again, we're patenting that synergy because it actually is regenerative and activates 22 more pathways that are responsible for organ regeneration. And I think that has to be said. That's really important to me as a mother of 2 type 1 diabetics, because so often we think that we can't regenerate what was lost. And your bodies are really special. It might just be that the pathways aren't turned on yet. The NRF2 and the mind body also together activate and signal 9 more metabolic pathways, fat and fatty acid pathways that come into balance. So if metabolism and metabolic health has been a question mark for you, wow, that combination really hits it. And it even activates 4 more antioxidant pathways, which, as we started, is a really, really big deal underlying to all disease. So we know we've covered an enormous amount of information. We've introduced a new science to you. We've like challenged you to step into a new way of thinking. And we also know it's a lot to absorb, and you're not going to absorb it all right now. But we are here if you have any questions. If there's anything that came to mind that you're just not sure of, you can feel free to unmute, and we're happy to stay on until your questions get answered. Does anybody have a question?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Lisa.
So, for someone who is 75 years old and in a nursing home situation, they cannot walk, can barely stand for a second, isn't able to do PT, has always had pain, and is just having a hard time in so many different ways, what do you recommend that person start with? I mean, I think I have an idea, but I'd be curious, like, what would be a protocol for someone who, that woman who broke her hip and couldn't walk, what specifically was she taking?
She was taking, I had her for the first week. I gave her a full week of NRF2 and collagen twice a day. So 12 hours apart, 8 and 8. Then after that, I went down once she was standing and pivoting, and I saw just like, I don't know if it would have worked with just once a day, but after the doctors or the PT, scared the husband to death and, had my staff all like, what? She's not going to walk again. Why are we trying this? This is her care. I did twice a day. So, but then after a week, I went down to once a day because I'm like, nope, this is exactly what I'm seeing. What I've seen before was the NRF2 and the collagen in particular. What is her reason that she can't walk?
So much pain.
Okay. Oh, pain. All right. Absolutely. I would do the NRF2 and the collagen if possible. Do the NRF2, NRF1 and the collagen together.
Thank you.
Yep. Absolutely.
Anybody else? There's no stupid question. And we know like some of us are coming, like, I guess I always want to say like our health is our most vulnerable issue. We are in such a vulnerable space when we are thinking about our health or the health of someone we love. And so like, we want you to know, like, we honor that. We'll talk that through with you. Faye, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. How about allergies? skin, allergies to food, and possibly in younger children.
Yeah. So, depending, I mean, there's probably more going on than you've said right now, but if someone, it kind of depends. When people ask me, what should we start with? Usually my answer is, what will you stick with? What are you willing to invest? Time, emotional, mental, and financial. And so, there's of course like regimens that Chanel and I love to go to, but if someone won't spend that or stick to it, it's silly to recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you with my child, I would go NRF2, collagen, and NRF1 for sure, just right off the bat. When I have people come to me that are in that kind of desperate mode, they're so fed up, they're struggling, they're having such a hard time. I go with those three to start with. It's, they may have a little detox, depending on, like what their body has gone through. Like Chanel has experienced a lot of detox if people have been on acid blockers or narcotics, but with children, not so much. Sometimes I'll add in the ProBio. Our ProBio, we have some supportive supplements within our product line. And whenever you see a supplement from LifeVantage, it's only because the company recognized that it's necessary to have this supportive supplement, and it's usually done wrong in the marketplace. And I will say, I can't scream that from the highest mountain loud enough about probiotics. Our probiotic is wonderfully powerful. And so even NRF2 collagen, NRF1 and probio. When I had a health transformation with my gut with NRF2 and NRF1 because collagen hadn't been released yet. And when probio was released, I added it just because I trusted the company and I thought, okay, I'm doing this business now. I guess I should add this. And my issue was gut, and I had never felt a probiotic before, but it changed everything in my life. By adding that probiotic, it allowed me to absorb the NRF2 and the NRF1 better. And that was actually the main thing because NRF2 and NRF1 already healed my gut. But the probio said, hey, you can absorb NRF2 and NRF1 more. Let's do it. And that was pretty impactful for me also. So that may seem like a lot. If that seems like a lot, cut back. And that's where we start. At the very least, NRF2. If they're willing to do NRF2 and NRF1, wonderful. If they're willing to add collagen in there too, all the better. And if we can sneak probio, even more amazing.
Is there a age for children that it's not recommended for, like under a certain age?
My youngest client was 3 months, and it was really incredible. I had 3-month-old twins, mother of 3-month-old twins who had pretty extreme infections in their eyes, and she put the NRF2 in their formula. And that really inspired me. It was years ago. And so my grandson, like I mentioned, he's 7 months now, but I've been putting NRF2 in his formula probably since 4 months. And
Does that
so,
break down in the formula?
yeah, well, you know what? I crush it. So I
Oh, you
crush it
crush it.
into a powder. And then, so for a child, like I have a 3-year-old grandson and I have a 7-month-old grandson. And actually they were with me for the last 3 days. And I crush it up. And then for my 3-year-old, and actually they're the same weight because the 7-month-old's really large and the 3-year-old is a little bit more petite. So they're the same weight, believe it or not. So I crush the NRF2 into a powder and I put it in. I have a really healthy kind of protein blondie brownie recipe. And I put the 3-year-old's NRF2 in that. So he has these little bites that have a half of NRF2 in it. And I kind of rule of thumb is if they're 50 pounds or less, at least a half, you can do a half a pound or a half a NRF2 for 50 pounds. You could do a quarter NRF2 for 25 pounds. And then 70 pounds, 3/4, and then a full for 100 pounds or more. But you're not going to hurt them if they get a whole one. So like today I gave my 3-year-old 2 of the half because I thought he ate about 3/4 of the second one. And I thought You know, if he gets more, it's all right. It's not going to hurt anything because it's all natural. But as far as like cost effective, it can last longer. If you're getting it for a 50-pound child, you can make one bottle last 2 months because it would just be a half a pill.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you.
You bet. And one thing we do, and Shanell and I and Barb and Tammy and many of us on this call, one thing that we've done too is in chronic or acute situations, we take it twice a day. Like Shanell mentioned with Joyce, you know, that physical therapist kind of spoke death over Joyce. So Shanell was like twice a day. We're going to do it 8 hours apart at least and do NRF2 and collagen 2 times a day. And I don't hesitate to do that when with like surgery recovery, if someone's in intense pain and they're desperate and they want to see breakthrough. It just, again, it depends on what their level of investment is, but if they want to do it twice a day, it's not going to hurt anything. The only thing it takes away is when they have that breakthrough, would it have happened with once a day? We don't know because we did twice a day. So
Yeah, I definitely do twice a day for like cancer, MS, Parkinson's, any of those really big ones. You know, if somebody is struggling with it, I'll do it 12 hours apart. So I have done it twice a day for residents like that.
yeah. Anybody else? Any questions?
This is Ellen. I had a question or a couple of
Yeah.
questions.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Ellen.
So you've seen success with just using the NRF2 because that's what I started on because I really wanted to see what your flagship product could do before I started. And I don't have anything major going on. I just wanted to see what
Yeah.
it would do for me. So
Yeah.
so Shanell, when you first started with your patients, did you just start with NRF2 or did you really some of the other the other stacks were already out there, I'm assuming, when you started? How did you
No,
start them?
actually, when I first started, only NRF2 was out. That's all there was.
Oh,
So
okay.
the story of Dolores was actually just NRF2. I would have liked to. I've gone back now, like if we would have had it, I would have done the NRF2 and the collagen and stuff, and I would have liked to have seen if I had seen results a little bit even sooner. But the fact that it stopped it from progressing and then started to improve was huge. And that was just with NRF2 and just once a day.
Okay.
We
And
even saw
then
improvement in her dementia.
with just the NRF2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wonderful. And then, yeah, I had a friend who had tried the weight loss powder, and when she told me that she wasn't having success, I thought, I don't think she's doing the NRF2 with it. And really, it sounds like some of these products, they're not the activators. It's the Protandim that's the activators, right?
No, there's a lot of activators. So Mind Body is
Okay.
an activator. It
Oh,
just, as you combine activators, they do synergize with one another to make each other stronger.
So
And go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say you do sell the NRF2 with the powder and the pill that goes with it. I'm assuming she may have seen more benefit if she would have put those together because then it would have synergized it. Is that what
Yeah.
you recommend or?
I definitely would have done that if it was available. Dolores also had diabetes, so I would have done the Mind Body with her. I would have done the collagen with her, and I would have done the NRF2. When the NRF1 did come out, which was like almost a year later, I did end up doing the NRF2 and the NRF1 together with her. So she was
Okay.
an NRF1 also.
All right. And then my last question was, I know that everybody, we respond to these differently. We're all individuals. And you talked about, I think his name was Don, that was with his wife, right? Who came to you so ill and wanted to commit suicide. And then his wife ended up living a whole year longer. And you talk about his story, but have you ever had patients that didn't respond quite as well? I'm not looking for, I'm not looking for a downer, but everybody responds
Right.
differently. And it's not always an immediate turnaround. Some things are just a little bit better, right? I mean, you've seen all different kinds of responses.
Yep, sometimes I did get somebody that was just too late, like they were days away or weeks away, and I still put him on the NRF2, just to try and help the dying process. I've really kind of seen that the dying process is very much improved if they're on it at least 3 months. It seems to be the thing, which kind of makes sense because also in the peer-reviewed studies I saw, in 3 months time is when your stress oxidation is reduced 70%. And in 3 months time, it's when the glutathione raises 300. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe that's, it absolutely is a science to 3 months, but I still put people on it and see, just because I believe in the products and I want to see if something would happen. But I have had people that have come to me and I was like, okay, I'm going to start this right away. And, it was too late. Whatever they were struggling with had gone, too far, and they just needed to be on the NRF2 longer. It's not a take it and the flip just switches right then, as far as then you're healed. There's a healing process that goes on in your body too. And so when they were taking it, if I had more time, if I would have started it sooner, I really think, things could have changed. But sometimes I get people that are like, they are passing, or I'll get someone who's just, just doesn't want to do it and just doesn't want to swallow it, doesn't want to take anything, that type of thing. So I see that too. But yes, I have had people that have come, but I haven't had anybody that has come and put on it and been on it 3 months and not seen some positive results, whether they got off a med or blood pressure. They all come on blood pressure meds. I always see somebody get off a blood pressure med, usually somewhere between 6 months and 12 and a year. But I've had it as early as 3 months too. I think my earliest was 2 weeks time. And it was the lady's husband even that I was talking about with cancer. He was 2 weeks and he was on blood pressure meds since he was 40. So I don't know, his body responded really quickly. And we had to start reducing his blood pressure med.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And, between the two of us, Shanell and I both have been doing this 9 years now, 9 years plus. And we've never, when we have a client be consistent with activation and with all different combinations of products, we've never had anybody not regulate their blood pressure, so not go off.
Something happen. The biggest thing is consistency. Like if I have somebody that will take it 2 days and then won't take it 3 days and then will take it a day, I definitely see less results with that. Consistency is the important thing, and enough time to get it in and get it in that system to get it to the 90-day mark of it takes 90 days to reduce that stress oxidation 70%. So if I don't have 90 days with someone, but I have had people like that had 2 or 3 months to live or something like that. And I've seen things reverse with that.
Yeah. And as far as like whether taking one product or adding it with NRF2, I sometimes see just phenomenal results with someone with just collagen or just mind body without NRF2. So I can't say that it's just a rule of thumb. It's just everybody, like you said, Ellen, everybody is so unique. And a lot of times we don't realize the intricacies that are going on inside of us until we get started with something like this, of how deeply we need to heal and maybe the other things we need to add in, and for some people not. And I know it's not necessarily fair, but we've all been exposed to different things. We've all experienced different things, and that's part of it. And with the Mind Body, we offer a weekly, now we normally do it on Monday night, and this next week is Labor Day, but we offer a weekly support group Q&A at 6:30 Eastern time for people who are utilizing Mind Body, whether they're combining it with other products or just using it on their own. Because not only is it activating and getting your body working for you, but weight loss and body image bring with it a whole different slew of issues. And so sometimes we can look at, with that support group, we have a virtual support group, we can look at, are people taking it right? Are there different things going on, emotional attachments or mental attachments to food and eating or dieting, or even being overweight, that we need to look at? So we go a little deeper, because what Mind Body does is it gets your body working for you, but some people just literally don't want to listen to their body. So I have run across since October, so it's been almost a year. A lot of the people that have utilized it, there's deeper issues going on. And so we want to help assist with that as well. But what Mind Body will do is it is an activator. Our activated collagen is an activator. Our fat burn is an activator, and our Axio is an activator. So we have a lot of nutrigenomic activators. Our Protandem line are activators. But, there's sometimes more mental and emotional aspects that have to go along with it, sometimes when our goal is something like weight loss.
And I would also say too that I I totally believe with all of my heart, after what I've seen therapeutically, with my residents at Gull Arbor, if people can get on this soon enough, preventatively, they could avoid an AFC. Like, I really believe that we could absolutely avoid the AFC if we can get this on in somebody soon enough. For sure.
Which is
I
just
think we can die at
incredible.
home. Yeah,
Yeah.
die at home more peacefully and stay at home, which
Yeah.
is the goal. I mean, that's what I would wish for everybody, first and foremost, besides, coming to my business.
Right.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you for that added information.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
I have another question.
Yeah, go ahead,
What
Lisa.
would you recommend for someone who's in his or her 40s and lots of pain, like just chronic shoulder and neck pain due to different injuries and overuse, and also just absolutely exhausted? Right now, that person's taking the energy pack, but I don't know that that's the best thing for the pain, because it's only been like 2 or 3 weeks, and that person hasn't seen any reduction in pain. But I'm wondering if something else should be taken instead of that.
I usually always start with NRF2 and collagen. If they'll add NRF1 and NAD in this case, that would be huge. And even Axio regarding like energy would add into that. So it really depends on what they're willing to do. So sometimes I will give people a good, and I really should say great, because even just doing NRF1 is like more powerful than any food, drug, or supplement. So we could say great, and then a step up from that, a step up from that, a step up from that. I just kind of add on from there. And ideally, I'd love to see that person. If that's a loved one of mine, I say try Synergizer, Collagen, Axio.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if they can only do like if for a great, that would be the best card. If they want a great, I would definitely do the NRF2 and collagen.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like our collagen is a high-end product. I mean, we source one of the raw materials from the Himalayas. So it's not a cheap product. It does what it says it does. It's phenomenal for what it does. I think it's cheap because if it was a pharmaceutical, it'd be probably 20 grand. But NRF2 and collagen, and when people get sticker shock and they get scared of that, then you can like bump down to the Tri-Synergizer, NRF2, NRF1, and NAD. If that scares them, you can do NRF2 and NRF1. If they're willing to add Axio, that's awesome. And then just NRF2. So, because again, everything affects everything. So it really, like, I have a gal that started with just NRF2. So this kind of answers Ellen's question too. Just NRF2. She's been on it 3 months, and she had sciatic pain that kept her awake at night, and it's gone. She's sleeping. That's just NRF2. So you just never know. Like, it's very, very potent if people will stick with it consistently.
It does gain momentum, and you don't know what's going on, and it's very frustrating when you hear from somebody like myself. Like, I had incredible results the first month. Like, I was sleeping so good, my energy level was great as far as anxiety and just what I could handle. 7 kids, a 24/7 business. It was getting to the point that I was just like just feeling stressed all the time. And for some reason my situation didn't change, but my inner attitude and just joy changed. It was really crazy. Like Angie's son just woke up one day and said, I feel joy. Like, it's crazy. So I had great results. My husband had a detox, so he did not have good results at first. And he was like, I feel miserable. I went off this. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You've had so many pain meds in you from shoulder and back. And that's what it is. I see a lot of detoxing with, narcotics and things like that. So it's not that your body is not agreeing with the Protandim, or that it's not good for you. It's absolutely good for you, but there is a detox of the cells. You're getting a cell well, similar to when you go to the gym and you're building your muscle. You don't come home and feel like, oh, I'm in pain. This is horrible for me. I should never work out again. It's just, there is a saying, no pain, no gain. And that is very true, especially in NRF2, when your body is riddled with toxins and just filling with especially synthetic ingredients and the different things that our bodies go through. pulling those toxins out and as they repair, but it does gain momentum. Some people get results. Literally, I've had a person get incredible results similar to Angie's son, who was only 10, in 24 hours. Call me and say, is it possible? Like, is it really possible that this could be happening just 24 hours later, like immediately? It was crazy. And then I've had other people that 9 months later are still like, wait a minute, I'm not feeling anything. I'm not feeling anything. But then they get a blood test and they're like, wait a minute, I went from stage 4 kidney, failure to normal kidney function. Again, some things don't feel like anything, and your body's going to fix the first thing of urgency first in your body. And some of those things don't feel like anything. But most people, if they're on it and stay on it at least past those 3 months and then stop it, you'll feel something then. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's so gradual and it builds that momentum, but it continues to build momentum. I'm still seeing results 2 years after I took it, and 3 years, different things happening that I thought were impossible. For me, for some reason, my eyesight was rooted in stress oxidation. And at 2-year mark, I didn't need glasses anymore. So I don't know what was wrong with my eyes, but I needed glasses since I was 12, and then I didn't. So there's just, there's things that happen. If I'd have stopped at 3 months, I wouldn't have had my heart condition change, because it was 4 months in that I started noticing no heart palpitations. And at 5 months, I had my first normal EKG. So when it happened, I don't know, but it continued.
Anybody else? Do you have anything looming over you that you need answered before we wrap up?
2 quick questions. What does detox look like if you have been on a lot of medications or something?
Yeah.
Are the detox symptoms?
It's so interesting because sometimes we think we know who's going to detox if people have been on a lot of meds, and they're typically the ones who do have some discomfort, if there is discomfort. But sometimes, like, I just had a gal that has had so many autoimmune disorders. She's on so many meds. I was so cautious with her. She got a lot of products and we're just baby stepping into adding each one, and she never had any discomfort. So I want you to know it's not a given if you've been through a lot of meds. But if people say, I just feel really tired and I feel like I have a headache, headaches aren't normal for me, that's detox. I've even had people say, like, I have crazy dreams. I'm having these weird dreams. I'm like, yeah, believe it or not, it's kind of a detox. And even some people with skin, because it's so interesting. We all try to say, like, I want to do a detox, and they do the cabbage soup and all the different things. Well, this is a deeper detox. We are detoxing your cells. And so your very last level of defense is your skin. So even sometimes acne, if someone says, you know what, since I started, I have this crazy acne outbreak, which is interesting because usually we see acne totally clear up, which again is the long-term effect, but there is a detox happening. So sometimes it's skin things, sometimes it's fatigue, sometimes it's headache. Sometimes one of our colleagues, who's just this brilliant, amazing lady who no longer has a heart disease, any kind of markers for it. But when she first started, her symptoms that she had for her heart disease kind of inflamed. They seemed like they were getting worse. And so she really baby stepped. She went down to like a quarter of a tablet of NRF2, then went slowly to a half, then to a 2/3. And she was just really gentle in acclimating. And now they can't find her heart disease, kind of like Shanell. Shanell has the normal EKG, which they thought they were going to have to do heart surgery. But for our friend Debbie, it kind of seemed like, oh my gosh, I'm getting worse. But that's really your body. If you can imagine, like, you've had this unwellness process, whether it's heart disease, whether it's autoimmune, whether it's something genetic, because I have people say that to me, well, I have a genetic thing, so there's no touching this. Well, that's building momentum in your body. And we have, as soon as you start activating, we have a wellness momentum that's building. So if you picture 2 freight trains that are going to meet, that friction feels like something. And if you feel discomfort, it means that there was discomfort, like there was unwellness in your cells, and its time is limited. You know, it's kind of like I said with the four-legged table, my computer would fall off. Things would be uncomfortable at first. But usually when I have someone who has, if they call me and say, I have a really bad headache, this isn't like me, I can't have a headache and go to work, I will usually, my first question for them is, are you drinking water? And they
Okay,
usually
yeah.
say, I'm really bad at that. And then I'll say, drink some water, your body's flushing, you need to help it. And then that just alleviates it. So usually water drinking is the key factor, but if we have, everyone's pain tolerance is different. So if we need to help people acclimate, we'll gently introduce small parts of the dosage and then slowly, you know, let your body adapt to one product before adding another product.
Yep, awesome. So if somebody is, how long does the activation like stay in your body? So like if somebody goes off of it, or say they decide they want to take the collagen or whatever it might be, every
Yeah.
2 to 3 days to save money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How does that work?
It's about 2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, 2 weeks.
It's about 2 weeks. Yep. But I do know that some people are able with the collagen and with the mind body to enter into like a maintenance dose, like every other day or every third day, and some people aren't.
Okay.
And the only reason I say that is because I've had people who wanted to enter into a maintenance dose of every other day, and then they call me and say, I can feel a day without it, and I'm not willing to do it. I thought I wanted to save money, but never mind.
So
And I'm one of those people. Yeah.
so each one of those products, it's about 2 weeks for all of the
Yep.
activation products
Yep.
that have the mind
Yeah,
body.
all of our activators. It's about 2
Okay.
weeks. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I just had somebody here today at my house, my sister-in-law, and she was like, she's been taking the products now for almost a year. And she's like, I forgot to order it this month and I was running it. So she actually was out for 2 weeks. Like, next time, call me. But she's like, I felt like I got hit by a Mack truck. Like my pain, my mom was even worried about me, telling me to call the doctors and get all these appointments. She's like, it was crazy. And then my NRF2 came in, I got back on it. She said within 2 or 3 days, I felt like so much better and back to normal. So she's like, I am a believer. I will never make that mistake again. So yeah,
Awesome.
it does hit you. Like you will
And
know.
it's not that it's not causing you harm to go off of it. It's
Right.
just that some of us don't realize how bad we feel until we feel good.
Yep.
And
She
then
did it for
all of a
pain.
yeah.
And her pain
And
came
then
right back after 2 weeks.
I have a friend that went off 17 meds with activation, and then she forgot to take it on a travel soccer weekend for her son. And 4 days, she's like, I forgot how bad I felt, but my body feels it right now, and I forgot everything. I need my activators. So your body will go back without it, and it's similar. I always tell people it's like if you don't brush your teeth, your teeth will get fuzzy. Or if you're working out and then you don't work out, your body will go back to less muscle mass, you know, like your body will go back eventually. It's strong, and the longer you're activated, you're really built up that momentum. But and again, it depends on each individual. Some people can feel a day without it. Some people don't feel anything till 2 weeks.
So with the MS diagnosis, what are your go-tos for that?
With MS, I automatically go to the NRF2, the collagen, and the NRF1 for sure, without a doubt. If they will add Axio and any of our other like supportive, like I think ProBio would be so good just to make sure that we're absorbing all of that. And then even our mind body, believe it or not, at least the core to be it because it's so neuroprotective and what that offers. But if someone's willing to do, I have a couple NRF2, or I'm sorry, a couple MS clients, and I always suggest standard NRF2, collagen, and NRF1.
Okay, so myasthenia gravis would be about the same thing because they're both autoimmune
Yes.
diseases, which
Yeah.
There was a study done, Angie, do you remember? Can you speak to the MS study for the NRF2,
Yes.
the synthetic version?
Absolutely. So Biogen, who produces Tecfidera, and that's a drug that is highly recommended for MS. They did a study, spent $50 million on a study comparing our Protandim NRF2 to their synthetic NRF2 activator, which is Tecfidera. Theirs costs 50 grand. And broccoli, which is an NRF2 activator, but only kind of tickles the NRF2. And then another pharmaceutical that's been banned because of so many side effects. And they could not prove that their pharmaceutical was even half as potent as Protandim NRF2. And they had to recommend it in their own study. They had to recommend, it was published in the MS Journal, they had to recommend Protandim NRF2 as the most potent inducer. And so not only that, but then when I look at the genetic pathways, because type 1, my two sons that have type 1 is an autoimmune disease as well. And the pathways that are regulated with the combination of NRF2 and collagen they're priceless. For the autoimmune response, for diabetic response, for neuroprotective response, for me, it's a deal breaker. I will go without many things, but I won't go without my boys having that combo. And then also we do the NRF2 and the mind body because of what that does for the brain, for the pancreas, for the liver, and so on. But the synergy, and it goes, sometimes people don't talk deep enough to recognize that those genetic pathways that get regulated are responsible for autoimmune disease. And we're able to, with that combo of NRF2 and collagen, we're able to tell those pathways to behave. It's absolutely incredible. So to give someone with MS that advantage, we don't tell them we're going to cure them we're going to cure their MS, but man, we can give them an advantage. And so at least, at least NRF2 and collagen, if they'll add the NRF1, all the better.
Yeah, my husband has MS, so I'm asking
Okay.
for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm
Okay.
so sorry. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So thank you.
Okay. You guys, thank you so much. We've spent a lot of time together, but I think it's important. You know what? Your health is important. Your husband's health is important. Your friend's health, your loved one's health is so important. And, I learned through my dad's journey, especially like not only his health, but I realized if his brain isn't healthy, it didn't even matter what else was healthy. It didn't matter if he had good muscle mass or a healthy heart because we lost him when we lost his brain. And so it just kind of changed everything. And I think taking the time to learn about something that can give you an advantage is just absolutely priceless. And so thank you, each and every one of you, for taking the time, whether you're here for a loved one or for yourself or both. I think it's a wonderful statement to make that you're investing in you and at least the understanding and an option that you may have. And if you want to step in, if this is new to you and you are thinking, oh my gosh, I was like, how can I get this fast enough? Just reach out to the person who invited you here and they'll be able to help you. Thanks everybody for joining
you.
us. We appreciate you.
night.